Alright guys, so this is a time-lapsed video of me putting the ramps together, just tacking everything together basically. Some of the stuff gets welded out, but the majority of the ramp is just tacked together. And this video is just kind of an overview. It doesn't show me obviously getting the metal and cleaning the metal and cutting everything to size. You know, I thought about doing a video like that, but I realized how much time it would take, and I'm just not interested in it. You know, what happens is I get an order, I print the order, and then I print my cut list for whatever it is that they ordered, and I pull the metal and I start cutting. Cut everything, clean everything, bevel everything, and then get all the metal on the shelf. And then depending on how busy I am, I'll either drill the holes right away or I will drill the holes as I'm building the ramp. In this regard, I'm drilling the holes as I build the ramp. And these are, I'm drilling, with that drill press I use the center drill to get the hole started. And that makes it so that the drill bit doesn't walk while I'm drilling the holes. Not that these need to be precision holes, but you know, I have a hard time with things not being straight to my detriment. So I just drill. You know what's funny? I was using some hole saws, some 5/8 hole saws for these holes, but I didn't like the way that they drilled. First of all, hole saws, if you don't have a precision drill press, they walk and they make a huge mess, and you know, really reliable. You can break the teeth in no time. And so I racked my head for a while. I was just really, what I was doing is just continuously buying hole saws. And one day I was in Harbor Freight picking up something, I think clamps, and I came across this cheap ass set of step drill bits, unibits. And there was like $13. So I'm like, all right, I'll buy these. So I buy them. This step drill bit has done 30 ramps easy. And each ramp has, well, what I would use the step bit for. Each ramp has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So each ramp has 7 holes in it. And there is no sign that that thing is even remotely dull. And the holes are clean and perfect, and I don't know why I beat the shit out of myself with these hole saws. So that's a side note. But anyways, this is what you see me working on now is the tabs that I use to weld the 5/8 nut on the inside of the hitch mount. Now that's the part that actually bolts into your receiver hitch on your truck. And in order for me to get the bolt welded in its place where it goes, I have to weld the nut on a tab and then sleeve the tab inside of the square tube and weld the tab in place. And this long dryer vent hose it's a fume extractor. I made it, and I only use it when I'm welding like zinc or some kind of galvanized steel of some kind. And just, you know, those fumes are not good for you. So my garage door's open, and I have a fan that usually blows down towards the ground that kind of circulates the air. But, you know, just a little added security on the stuff that's really bad for you. And that's me just welding the tab in place there. You can. And then these are the adjustment nuts that get welded on the outside. And these are also grade 8 5/8 bolts that allow the adjustment. And so I just tack those in place with that bolt in there just to make sure that I have the nut centered on the hole, and then I just weld them out. And then that's just a video of the finished product there, or the shot. This section here is the dovetail neck. And this is what connects the hitch mount to the actual dovetail itself. And I just used the fixturing components for that table to lay out the holes. I have templates for just about every part of the ramp. So you'll see me put those plates in place, and then I'll put another one on top of it, and I just mark the holes with a center punch so that they can be drilled in the correct locations. And then I just follow up with some with a harder hole punch. This wood and cardboard contraption here was my attempt at catching the chips that fly off of the drill bit. I don't like when things are under my feet. I just don't like it, is the bottom line. And so I made this thing here, but in the middle of making it, I realized I was just going to redesign my whole drill press table. And so I finished it with cardboard. It's a pain in the ass. It's not even there anymore, but it was a pain in the ass while I was using it. It kept my floor clean, but that's just about all it did. All right, so you saw me drilling holes for the plates. This is a jig that I made that allows me to bolt the plates in place where they would be if they were on the ramp. And then it has a post that is welded on the correct angle so that I can just slap that, that neck in place and tack it where it goes. And I just use one of those flat magnets to just line it up and hold it where it goes. And I just tack it in place there. And I do the same thing for the other one, and then that piece gets welded out. Now, I ordered a plasma table so that I can make a lot of these plates without having to, make a bunch of steps. First off, I'll be able to buy a sheet of steel to cut all the pieces instead of different sizes, because in the ramps the way that I build them now, I will need to buy 3-inch flat bar that's 3/16 inch thick, and then also an 1.5 inch flat bar that's 3/16 inch thick. So that's 2 pieces of material that I have to buy that are the same thickness to make different parts of the ramp. So if I was able to lay a sheet on a plasma cutter and cut out all of the plates that I needed, it would probably save me a good 25% of time. As long as they came off of the table usable and not with a bunch of nasty slag and all that stuff. And this is me just welding them all out. That piece gets cut on an angle too, so that when you slide this part onto the dovetail, it kind of registers where it needs to go. I'm sure that doesn't make a lot of sense, but it doesn't matter. You can see what it looks like. That's just a shot of those being done. And this here is the part that actually is adjustable on the dovetail section itself. I bought this cheap plasma cutter off of Amazon. I paid barely $200 for it. And I'd never used a plasma cutter before. I've watched a million videos of it. I'm pretty intuitive, so there was no learning curve for me. I just started using it like I'd used it forever, which I think is probably more of a testament to people who do instructional YouTube videos than anything else. But the way that I was making these before is I would drill the 2 holes on the ends, on one end and then the other, and then I would draw a line between them and cut it out with an angle grinder. And it worked fine, except for it created an enormous amount of dust, and it took longer than it was necessary. Now, you can get plasma cutters that are, 50 amp plasma cutters, that are in the $1,000 to $1,500-$1,600 range. If it was between that or using angle grinder, I would have used an angle grinder, but I figured $200 was worth it. If it lasts me a year, I'm not going to cry about it. Besides, by the time I get my table, it won't matter. That has its own plasma cutter coming with it, so I won't even, the other one will just kind of be a backup, I guess. I won't be able to use that one for the table anyway, because this one has a high frequency start and it's bad for plasma tables well, the one I'm buying anyway. These are the legs, the drop down legs. There's 4 of them there. Each ramp has 2, so again, like I said, I'm building 2 ramps at the same time here. And I don't show the rest of them, I just kind of show how I use the template table. And then I'm just welding it out here. Part of me wants to rebuild that template table out of steel, but the other part of me does not. And because the biggest reason is because, for one, it would be too heavy, and for two, it would be, all of the spatter that gets on it would stick to it, and then I'd have to keep scraping the table to make everything lay flat, and there's a million things I could do to remedy that situation, but this wood just seems to make more sense. It's faster, and if I have to change something, I can just pry off some wood and tack it back down in the right location. And I've been using wooden template tables for welding for a long time, with no real issues. You can see my equipment defender racks down there still sitting on the shelf. I bought them a month ago thinking I'd be able to incorporate those into my swing arm assembly, but they're too heavy. And I like the way they're made and everything. They look great. I'll probably put them on my trailer, but the Green Touch and the equipment defender racks, they're just too heavy for the system that I designed. And again, my system is not, there's a lot of people that make their ramps or, even sell ramps, and they say it's a replacement for a trailer. My ramp is not a replacement for a trailer. For one, you can take the ramp off in 10 minutes and hook a trailer up. So, there's that. But for two, there's a lot of people who, they may go cut grass 3 days a week and then they got to trim shrubs for the other 2. And this ramp is not going to help them with that. This is more for people who do city work or, smaller lots or just mow and go guys, which there are a lot. I'm in Florida, so, this is something that happens here. But again, you do have to trim shrubs if you're a full service lawn care guy. So I don't really have a solution for you for that, which is why the ramp removes so easily. There's been people that have been asking me if I could design it in a way where you could pull a trailer at the same time, and the answer to that simply is no. I could do it, obviously. It's not impossible, and I would be able to design it that way, but I would not be willing to accept the liability that comes with it. So also, the issue is that the way that the ramp installs, and one of the ways that makes it the most stable, is it bolts to your hitch, not with a pin. And you wouldn't be able to, to use that bolt and still be able to pull a trailer, because, it's just not, I'm sure it's against DOT rules anyway. Those were the handles that I was bending there for, for the outside ends there. And that was just a cheap Harbor Freight bender. I paid, I don't know, $80 for it or something. And just mounted it to the floor there. It's not where I want it to be, and it's not in a very good place at all. But again, I'm working out of a 2-car garage, and I don't have a whole lot of space. One of the reasons why I only build 2 ramps at a time is because I can't store more than 3 before the shop becomes too unorganized for me to work out of it. My wife is, asking me, or maybe not asking me, maybe more encouraging me about a shop. But I've had a big shop before, and away from our house, and I lived there. And that's not something I'm interested in doing anymore. So more than likely we'll buy a house that has a little bit more room to either build a shop or already has a shop in its place. But I also like the challenge of having to keep everything so lean and clean. It does become a pain in the ass sometimes, but it also doesn't allow me to acquire and, overspend things that are unnecessary. So this is me building the dovetail section. And again, the table has slots for every part of the ramp. I'm marking the holes so that I can drill the spots where the wires will come through for the lights. Initially, I was using like wire loom and running the wires on the outside and like zip strapping it in place. And this is a faster, cleaner way. Less material, higher quality, in my opinion. And then on the table, like you saw on all the other stuff, I just tack it all together. I check for it to be square, but to be honest with you, with the template table laid out the way that it is, it's kind of impossible for it to be out of square. But you never know. I could bump one of those pieces of wood while I'm prying it off and knock something out of square, and it only takes a second to check it. So I will tell you, I'm considering buying one of those things that allows you to use your welder. You know, it's like an overhead boom. I mean, you could put the whole welder on there, but I'm thinking about buying those, the 50-pound roll of wire, and they have like this external wire spool thing that you can hang over, and that way I can kind of move around the entire shop welding without having to roll that big ass welding cart around. Because again, space. And that piece right there just allows me to get the license plate and the light brackets in the right locations. Since then, I've deleted the need for that thing. I put a rail system on the table itself that just allows me to slide this piece of it's actually a magnet that I stick the tabs on, and I just slide them to the right location and then tighten a bolt down, and it puts it where it needs to be so that I can tack weld it in place. And that allows me to do both ramps on that. When I was using that pole, I was only able to use it on the 60-inch. I didn't make one for the 48-inch. And these are the components here to make the dovetail ends. And again, I didn't show any of the expanded metal install. I didn't show welding everything out, because what's the point? This was kind of just more of a video to show the process and how I put these together. And since the middle of February, I've done, to be honest with you, I don't even know, over 40 ramps, which is great. Anyway, I'm done talking. The video ends kind of abruptly, so I will say goodbye to you now, and I'll post a new video whenever I got something new happening. It'll more than likely be the backpack blower version of this swing arm.